What's up, guys? Teddy Cornwell here. Welcome to the Underdog Talk. Something about the Underdog, the most underrated podcast, according to our guys at Generation Iron. But today, we have an absolute beast on the Underdog Talk, the one, the only, Mr. Richard Rodriguez. What is up, sir? How you doing today?
Thank you, man. Thank you, man. Thank you for having me on the show. Doing great. God's good. I've been blessed and just moving along, man. Had like I received nothing but love after 5.5 years down for a mistake that it's in my rearview mirror and nothing but positive things, man. I got a few athletes. A few athletes I continue to work with. I got my supplement line up and running, and I got my clinic that now has about 12 franchises with letters of intent and about to launch pretty quickly.
Congratulations, Richard. And as I always say, mistakes happen. It's all about how you move on in life. And obviously, we will, get to the elephant in the room later. But what I want to do is I really want to take it back, actually. You were born in Staten Island in 1979 to a Puerto Rican mom and a Cuban dad. So I always like
Yes.
to start, Richard, what was your childhood like?
Well, the first 4 years of my life, I was homeless. So it was very, very hard. So it's one of the things in which my mom used to constantly try to reiterate to me. So to learn to how to be humble and appreciative of what of how we've evolved from being homeless the first 4 years of our lives to my father, my step pops, God rest his soul. That was more like a father to me. Took her under his wing, and eventually we just started to live in Brooklyn. And it's funny because I remember I was about 5 or 6 years old, and Brooklyn at that time is not the Brooklyn that it is now, where there's like nothing but people that have nothing but it's an industry where it's nothing but. I'm sorry, man. I get confused with this. What just transpired, and I got interrupted. Really interrupted.
You're good. You're good.
That the Brooklyn that it is now, it's like you have the Hasidic Jews. It's practically like a New York City now. It's like an extension of New York City. Whereas like during that time, it was very, very bad, dude. It's like you couldn't go outside for like practically anything, or you'll get robbed or killed, or there's a shootout practically all the time. So my step pops had a bright idea of saying, "Hey, you know what? Let's not raise our kid." Because he always referred to me as his kid, let's not raise our kid here in Brooklyn. So they moved me to the projects in the Bronx, which was even worse, where like probably like at 3% of those kids unfortunately ever evolved from there with anything positive. But neither here or there, dude. It's like I was always self motivated. At the age of 9, I was already working, packing bags and making deliveries at a local supermarket because, hey, you know what? I wanted the $120 Jordans, and guess what? My mother couldn't afford them. My step pops couldn't afford them, so I was gonna figure out a damn way to get them myself.
I like that. And it seems like, your stepfather was definitely a person that you looked up and, obviously rest his soul, as you mentioned. Now, to me, it seems like you've been a fighter, and I'm going to use the word a hard worker. You get what you want and you'll do what it takes to do it. Now, I want to jump into the next kind of portion. You've received, many big personal accolades, Richard, in your career. And your companies also have been highly recognized as industry leaders throughout the years. Obviously, in 2012, I have to throw this out because this is an amazing achievement. You were named the Latino Trendsetter of the Year by Latin Trends magazine. I mean, you were also recognized for many business leader awards, including Top Innovator in Science by the NYC Cranes business. So, some big accolades there. But what I also want to look at is, you were a top businessman in the fitness and wellness industry. So first, Richard, really, when did you fall in love with health and wellness, sir?
Well, I always had a dream when I was a kid. At the age of 13, I used to compete in sports. I started off with kickboxing, and that was when I was exposed to the world of anabolics and performance enhancement drugs. I was 13 years old and dedicated, relentless fighter, and However, I was getting my ass kicked all the time. So I went to my Shihan. I told him, I was like, hey, man, it's like, why is it that I'm focusing and working out just as hard as these people and they're kicking my ass? And he's like, oh, well, they're taking multivitamins. And I'm like, great, I want those vitamins. Lo and behold, they weren't necessarily the vitamins that I envisioned at that tender age. I was taking already the Anabol and Anadrol, but it was something that the how can I say, the passion of competitive sports, it always drove me into wanting to be the best, never shoot for mediocrity, get involved in the areas of sports to the point where one of the things in which I used to watch constant reruns of it's like Pumping Iron. you know, to this day, and it's crazy because when I finally had the opportunity of of evolving from the corporate world, graduating from an Ivy League school with an MBA from NYU, and then from there evolving into working at McKinsey, a publicly traded company, for 6.5 years. And then after that, it's like finally working with all the individuals that I used to follow and envision of like being like my role models in bodybuilding and powerlifting, you name it. It's like now being clients. It was just like a match made in heaven, dude. And it's something that um, was, I wouldn't want to say that it was planned,
Mhm.
but it was definitely something that was an eye opener for it was an eye opener for me, and it was also a humbling experience.
100%. And I can add on to that is obviously, one of your pictures on Instagram is with the man himself, Kevin Levrone, who was on the show. And to me, I can relate to that. Obviously, I've always been in the fitness industry. To me, I grew up, my generation was Generation Iron, funny enough. So I grew up watching all those guys. And to me, it's a humbling experience to have them on my show and to be able to talk to them. It's like, who am I? But I feel that it's not planned. It's more of a, I don't even want to say destiny. It's more of a hard work. And when you love something, you'll do what it takes to do well in that industry. So obviously, another accolade I want to look at, and obviously the elephant in the room, the Iron Addicts Gym Miami was named best gym franchise in Miami and fastest growing and most HRT TRT clinic in 2015. So my first question to you is, how did Iron Addicts, come to be in Miami?
Well, it's funny you said that. So like I said, it all goes back to me always wanting to have owned my own gym since I was involved in sports. So when wellness, fitness, nutrition started to grow rapidly, what I started doing was like, hey, I started following influencers
Mhm.
in the industry. Started following Mike Rashid, started following CT Fletcher, the Strength Cartel, Big Rob, a lot of those folks, and Bounty Tank, all those people that used to be clients. And I told myself, I was like, look, if I'm gonna invest in a franchise, or we're gonna go all in and dump millions into this, because let's face it, gyms don't make money. I've succeeded in the two most saturated markets with the highest probabilities of failure, and not just competed in those industries, but became the best. So a perfect example would be like just with Iron Addicts Gym Miami. By April 13th, when it was the grand opening, I was $2.3 million in, and I made 2.5 million in one day in the grand opening. So a lot of people, when they say, well, how the hell you did that? I was like, marketing. And it was a very complex, thought out strategy. Knowing that gyms don't make money, you have to figure out, one of the things in which I always used to say in marketing is, if you're not unique, you better be cheap. So what's the overt benefit? In Miami in particular, as vanity driven as that place was and continues to be, there was no mecca.
Mhm.
See, trying to create an Iron Addicts Gym Miami in California, where there's a Venice Beach Golds, I would have failed.
Yeah.
I would have failed miserably, because that's the reasons why Iron Addicts Gym in California created that little niche,
Yes.
hardcore, in the area where CT Fletcher resided. Made all the sense in the world. Doesn't make remotely close to how much I was making. I was making about $60,000 to $70,000 a month net. That gym in Miami, net. So and why? Because I I focused on, hey, you know what? where there's all the hot girls, there's going to become the guys. And when I started doing my due diligence, specifically in Miami, I realized that the people that were spending money was not the guys. It was the women that were, that had an average 3 to 4 different memberships on a monthly basis. Either they had yoga, they had meal prep, they had boxing, and they had another gym member. So they were spending on average about $700 to $1,500 a month in gym memberships. So what did I do? I put on retainer the 2 most expensive photographers in Miami, a guy by the name of Solomon Uraka and George Ulrich, and pretty much instantaneously had all the females in fitness, all the females in bikini, all the strippers, all the who's and influencers, and in that little area of Miami, all in that gym. And from there, practically, it was over. I leveraged the athletes and celebrities that I worked with at WFN to the standpoint where we had over 3,500 people in attendance on the grand opening. There's videos all over it on YouTube, man.
Wow. And I mean, what a gym was it? But obviously, what a gym was it? Now, this next portion, obviously, February 22, 2017, you obviously, you were arrested at Miami International Airport. Now, Richard, you had built, and it's no secret if you guys don't know, Richard has built one of the largest steroid operations in U.S. history, if not the biggest.
Actually, the largest, actually, and it's not to toot my own horn, but it's still considered from a revenue perspective the largest at over 28 million in annual revenue. Yeah.
So now I think, Richard, I want to sit back. I want to, listen to why you did it, and really everything about it, sir. The floor is yours.
Well, I mean, it all started when my ex-wife was 3 months pregnant, and we were living in New York. And she was like, "Hey, I'm sick and tired of New York. I want us to move to our condo in Miami." And I'm like, "Yeah, but we've been trying to move to Miami for the past 3.5 years, and either you don't find a position that appeals to you, or I don't find a position that appeals to you, or you have a job, or I have a job that's great." So she's like, "Yeah, you got a point." So what ends up happening, literally, within a month from that conversation, she lost her job due to wrongful termination, got a very nice severance package because she's a licensed CPA accountant. She worked for a private equity firm. And during that time, I worked for Quest Diagnostics. I ended up losing my job off of wrongful termination. So go figure. So what did I do? I started just packed my shit. I told her, like, "Hey, I have a business meeting," which practically I lied. And I just went to Miami, just started looking for condos. So in conjunction with looking for condos all across Miami, I was also interviewing with some of the top companies, you name it, McDonald's, Oracle, Citrix Systems, some of the top Fortune 500 companies. And all of them, when I'm interviewing with these individuals, it's like, mind you, I'm an executive working at McKinsey, averaging about $200,000 to $260,000 a year. And I'm going now to Miami and looking at VP positions and senior executive positions, getting paid 60, 70 for the same exact job I'm doing in New York. And I'm looking at these people. I was like, "Well, let me get this straight. This is what you want me to do, or you want me to do more work than I'm already accustomed to, and you're paying me a quarter of what I'm accustomed to?" And they're like, "Yeah." I was like, "What drug are you taking, man?" Like, I want to manufacture it. So realizing that was just no way in hell it was going to happen, that I would be able to successfully maintain my lifestyle. While I was driving, exploring condos, I was looking at these HRT and paid clinics all left and right, like they're grocery stores in the hood. So I'm like, shit, this must be fucking legal, pardon my French. So what I ended up doing was I started researching. It's like, how is the best way that I can get into this industry, knowing the people that I know? Because by that time, I already knew all the bodybuilders and powerlifters because I was in the competitive sports. So what I ended up doing was I said, it's like, hey, you know what? Let me launch something that's not a brick and mortar and just see where it goes. And what originally was, and I accepted a position with Citrix Systems, paying me about $75,000 a year. So my intentions was to have Citrix Systems, which was a 2-year contract, and have this just be something to supplement my income. I like if this made me a couple of $1,000s a month, I'll be happy as a pig in shit.
Yeah.
But make a long story short, I started off in Facebook groups. I started off in Facebook groups. I started off in about 2 forums. Within a month's time, I was doing about $2,000 in sales a day. And that's just me and 3 people in India that I outsourced some SEO and online marketing strategies that I've learned and replicated through other drugs that I used to market while during my tenure at McKinsey. To the standpoint why by month 3, I had fuck you power, dude. I'm sorry to say, by month 3, I was doing close to about $10,000-$15,000 of sales a day. Quit working at Citrix. Hired a couple of individuals. Still during that time, I was redistributing someone else's product. I wasn't doing mine. So like by like month 8, less than a year, I was doing approximately 15 to 20,000 in sales a day. And then that's when I discovered the powers of influencer marketing. The first people I retained was my role model that unfortunately is a major fucking douchebag, Flex Wheeler. I retained Flex Wheeler as one of the first sponsored athletes and Stan Efferding. And dude, just them two got me to like 30K like that, 30K a day. And that's when I just started getting addicted and seeing how, the opportunities of influencer marketing that I retained, the Little Bridges, Brandon Lilly, Brandon Curry, all the top pros, to the standpoint where it was funny because by late 2014, I was going to all the bodybuilding shows and powerlifting competitions. And I'm like, he's on my shit. He's on my shit. He's on my shit. He's on my shit. I know his protocol. He's eventually going to be my client in about a month. And so it's like, I practically represented over 80% of the bodybuilding market and 70% of the powerlifting community just with my products. And then from there, like I started experimenting with other companies and got involved in the porn industry and was introduced to Ron Jeremy and Dan Bilzerian. And dude, I started selling like dick injections and a couple of other products into the porn industry. And by then, dude, it was like no turning back, man. I was like in the 50, 60K a day range in gross income, to the standpoint where I had a succession plan because I knew that the way in which a lot of people say that I was just ahead. Whereas like you see now that everything is telemedicine right now.
Yeah.
Everything is like telemedicine. So I was embracing telemedicine when it wasn't embraced. Yes, was I prescribing Trembolone? Yes, was I prescribing Equipoise? That's no way in hell ever going to be able to be prescribed legally. And my clinic now, of course, they don't prescribe it because it's illegal. But that's not to say that my intentions when I was launching WFN, I did not have a succession plan. My succession plan at that point in time, if you've researched my company thoroughly, you would have seen that November 2016, I had Kevin Lerone and I had Mike Rashid promote a company called Hormone Club. Mm-hmm. And there's videos about it all over YouTube. And that was WFN's succession plan. The only thing about it was just too late. Poorly planned. To the standpoint where if it wasn't for my brother and my best friend of 22 years, I'm not going to name names, I probably would have still been operational right now. Yeah.
Now, I guess the question to you, Richard, do you regret any of it?
Nope. Because at the end of the day, I've told people that regretting lessons in life is you not learning from them. Hold on for just 1 second. It's you not actually learning from them. I've used to cut class. I used to smoke weed. I used to beat up the bullies. I used to do so many things in my life where if I was to say, it's like, hey, do I regret it? And be like, and say yes, it's like this, I would be a hypocrite. Why? Because at that point in time, that's what I felt was right. At that point in time, when I launched WFN, I knew that my lifespan was going, if I continued engaging in criminal activity, was going to be 1 to 3 years. So it was imperative for me to actually develop a successful succession plan. And gyms very similar to like Iron Addicts Gym Miami and the platform, the Hormone Club, were my succession plans. So I knew damn well that I was going to be doing time. The only thing about it was I just didn't know that I was going to get caught that quickly, and most importantly, by people that I wholeheartedly trust.
Now I'm not endorsing steroids or the usage of it, but I will agree with, mistakes are part of life, whether they be, monumental or small. It happens. There's no going back into the past. None of us
100%.
are time travelers. We can't go into the past and change it. I'm not saying you would or wouldn't. I'm just saying if I could change my mistakes, I obviously would. But I've kind of developed that mindset too, Richard. Obviously, where when I make a mistake and I'm beating myself up on it, it's kind of, I need to learn from it, grow from it, and then move on, because I can't really dwell on it for the rest of my life. So I do agree with that standpoint. Now obviously you talked about it was a mistake, and I think that's where we grow. So I want to ask you, Richard, what is one thing, or what is the thing you learned about yourself in this part of your life?
That the things that truly matter to you, at that point in time when you're making that amount of money, you don't really realize until it's taken away from you. I'll give you a perfect example. While prison in those 5 years that I've done was a blessing in disguise, it was also hard, man. It's like it took me 3.5 years to have my son, man, and not being there for him to graduate from pre-K, having to avoid the question of where I am. When everywhere I went, man, it's like if I was training an athlete in England, if I was training an athlete in Japan and Australia, it was my son. It was my son at 2 years old. Like by the time he was 3, like he had more places in his passport than someone ever in his lifetime. It's like that was tough, man. Losing a person that was with me for 19 years through good and bad, which is like my ex-wife. Shit like that, shit like that hurt, man. It hurt so much that those 5 years, I tell people, is like, it's not the fact of doing prison time, because prison is like a fucking fraternity if you're not a rat or if you're not a child molester. It's a fucking fraternity. But for a person that has so much going for themselves and has a kid, has a family, and has been an individual that his family relied on, that's what fucking hurts, man. It's like so much that I like, man, I attempted to commit suicide 3 times, bro. 3 times from the time I was in prison, because it's not easy, man. I wouldn't even wish prison to even the people that I despise the most in my life, man.
Well, I was listening to everything you said, Richard, and I think the other reason I wanted to have you on my show, obviously talking about that one event, an event that did happen, is I think I wanted to showcase that, people can make mistakes, move on, and become a better person. Because obviously now, Richard, you are doing so much good. I've been following you on RX Muscle. You seem happy again. Now, I mean, would you mind talking about what you're currently doing, Richard? And then, even what's next for you, Richard? Because it seems like it's full of positivity now and a different outlook, sir.
Well, just to kind of give you some insight, June 8th, I got out. June at 3 in the morning at Jackson, Mississippi. 5 in the morning, my business partner picks me up. 7 in the morning, I'm grinding, bro. I got my 13 Pro Max. I'm grinding, like getting on interviews. And dude, the amount of love, I mean, that I received, like within days of being released, LeBron, Dennis James, you name it, calling me and saying that, hey man, we wish you the best. It's like, what do you need? And I was like, dude, I had to take days to readjust, because I was like, holy crap, I thought I was gonna have to like start all over again, minimally take about a year or 2 to recuperate. No, within like 3 days, I was already a regular on RX Muscle. Like Dave Palumbo, a person that used to talk bad about my company, bad. I mean, granted, it's like, he had a channel and he was promoting Titan at that point in time, so there was a reason for it. It's neither here or there. It's water under the bridge, but we became the best of friends. We became the best of friends. John Bravo that followed my documentary, um, since the day of the bus, introducing me to all these individuals. Dave Palumbo introducing me to all these business potential investors, to the standpoint where, dude, within the first week, I already had 6 offers for becoming a partner for HRT, TRT companies. And I had 5 people that were interested in investing in my supplement line, for which I chose one, mentored 2 others, and now have my supplement line trademarked. About to launch, and I have been working on my clinic now with Dr. Pleasy from Circadian Rejuvenation now for about a little over about a month and a half. And it's been going well, man. We've secured 12 franchises with 3 of them issuing deposits, and a doctor network where we can now replicate our turnkey solution even in 38 other countries, not just the United States.
Wow.
So something along those lines over the span of what, 2 months and 2 weeks.
Not too bad.
So if granted, it's like, I'm not gonna lie to people here, man. It's like I've been working my ass off, and when I mean by working my ass off, it's like religiously, 4 a.m, 7 o'clock at night. I take a 2-hour break from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock at night to be a choreographer for my son on TikTok, because he loves his damn TikTok and dancing, but and coaching him, with his reading, because he has ADHD, with his reading and his studying, because I'm on home confinement right now till September 29th, so I'm not gonna be able to like see him and be with him regularly until next month. But those are like literally like just the 2-hour breaks that I have, and then I go back from after 9 o'clock. When I'm done with him, I'll spend another hour to prepare for the following day. So do I like doing what I do? Absolutely. Hence the reasons why I don't look at it as work. That's the reasons why I tell people all the time, especially the ones in which I mentor, is that find something that you absolutely truly enjoy. Because if it's something that you absolutely truly enjoy, you could be on that shit for 20 hours a day, and time would just fly without you even thinking twice.
Oh,
The fact that I'm about transforming people's lives for the better, the fact that I'm about helping individuals evolve personally, professionally, and physically, it's something I enjoy. It's something that I've been doing since, I mean, even when I was 13, 14, 15 years old, a young kid, I was always the kid beating up the bullies, because I never liked, them being picked on, to the standpoint where I never had a problem with my classes, because the geeks were the ones helping me out, because I was indirectly helping them out. But I've always had that type of mentoring, nurturing type of mindset, even when I was a kid. So it was only natural, when I came, like when I got out. I mean, little do people know, even when I was even when I was incarcerated for for 5 years, the way in which I was making my commissary and still helping my ex-wife and my son was actually, I was helping and launching businesses, legitimate businesses, for people that were incarcerated.
wow.
To the standpoint, to the standpoint where I launched 2 pretty big successful businesses that have, were some of the main investors for my initiatives now, and paid me my apartment that I'm going to be living in next month. So I tell people, I was like, look, it's about doing something positive. It's like learning from what's negative. It's like, yeah, I was incarcerated for those 5 years, and while in those 5 years you had people doing drugs, being depressed, being attempting to commit suicide, doing something negative, it's like, yeah, did I have a cell phone illegally? Absolutely. But you know why? One, because I wanted to stay socially relevant. I wanted to bounce back as fast as I possibly can, because I knew I wasn't doing a life sentence. But most importantly, I wanted to be a father. People that have been incarcerated would know that whenever you pick up that phone call, every 10 seconds on that 15-minute call, You usually hear a message, this call is from a federal prison. I never, ever wanted my son to ever hear those words, because the last thing I wanted him to hear was the last thing I wanted to hear was a follow-up question. It's like, Dad, why you're in prison? And I'm grateful till this day that my ex-wife and I were able to hide that from him. That's not to say that when he grows up, because he's 8 now, when he grows up and he's at a reasonable age, I'm going to let him know, because at the end of the day, it's about learning. It's like, hey, you know what? There's no shortcuts in life. It's like you have to be by the book. If not, you're going to end up like your dad did for 5 years.
Wow. And I mean, I think you just took the positive out of a negative situation. And then, obviously, I think the only illegal action that you've done, Richard, that I will accept is beating up the bullies. There you go. That's good. That's good. Now, obviously, that I'm so glad that you didn't end anything, because often we might feel like we're in those moments where we feel like there is no hope. It's just an end right now. It's a black hole. And I think the one big thing that I've heard, and so many people preach it, it's not the end. It's not the end. Light will come through that darkness. Flowers need a little bit of rain to grow. And I'm not saying that it's not okay to have, mental health problems. It's more than okay. It's be open about it. And, never find a way out. Try and talk to someone, get the help you need. If you know someone who is looking or even talking about, ending their life, get them the help. There's, so many organizations now that are helping with that. And Richard, I'm so glad you are here today, sir, because I think the world is better with Richard Barker. You guys in it, obviously, because you are doing so much positive, for the community and for the fitness industry now, sir. So Richard, I want to end this interview with, you've really seen it all in the business world. There is no ifs and buts. You have seen it all in the business world, sir. But what is your one biggest tip for someone who is looking to start a company?
Do something you love, even though initially, upon doing the research, is not the most profitable. Because let's face it, you could be a licensed CPA and easily make $250,000 a year being a CPA for some organization, but be fucking miserable. But if it's baking cookies, but you're a CPA accountant, work on your side hustle, because I've seen it with so many people that just because they're passionate about their side hustle, they evolve to becoming millionaires and even billionaires. I mean, one perfect example was my financial advisor when I worked at McKinsey, a lady by the name of Patricia Heldon. We used to make $500,000 a year as a financial analyst. But she was a phenomenal brownie manufacturer. Like, she used to make the freaking illest brownies. So, make a long story short, after having a phenomenal year at JP Morgan Chase, she quit. And I was like, Patricia, what the hell are you doing? You're making almost $1 million a year. She said, nope, I'm launching a company. I trademarked the name Fat Witch. I'm going to launch a company called Fat Witch Bakeries. I was like, great. How can we ensure that this is successful? She was like, I need a brand. I need a name. I need somebody to endorse it. I worked with her. Unbeknownst to my mentor, I helped her get into the Oprah O list. Her brownies were in fucking Oprah. Dude, and that's all it took. All it took was for fucking Oprah to endorse her fucking brownie. And she went to like a $9 million fucking brownie company practically the first year. And this is a person that hated her fucking job no matter how much money she was making. And I helped her enjoy what the hell she was doing. Now she's working longer hours. But Fat Witch now, it's a $20 million company with brownies. Yeah, so I tell. So, like, it's a short suggestion: do what you love, because the money will come.
Amen. And to be honest, let me add something: do what you love. And sometimes, if the money doesn't come, try and find a hustle, but always side hustle, but always do what you love. Life's about enjoyment. Life's short to do something that you don't like. I mean, I am probably the happiest I've ever been doing this podcast. And let me tell you what, Underdog Talk. You may think I get some income having the top guests in the world on. I've not made a single penny, and that's never been what this show is about. This show is meant to inspire. This show is meant to motivate, just give advice. And honestly, I'm having the most fun I've ever had in my life. So, and if the money does come, the money does come, and it'll help support this amazing podcast. But guys, You are why I love this show. Thank you guys for watching. Now, Richard, it has been an honor and privilege, sir. I'm
Excellent.
honored and privileged to talk with you. I'm impressed to see how you changed your life around after a mistake and how you became better. You know, your son can now be proud of you and who you are, because I think there is so much to be proud of. I can't wait for him to see you. You know, that's going to be such an amazing moment. Now, before we go, sir, is there anything you want to plug? You know, where we can find your businesses, where we can find, you know, anything you're working on, sir.
Yeah, I'm still accepting a couple of other potential mentoring and coaching opportunities if they're not a conflict of interest with my existing clients. So you could always just go to rodriguezrichard.com, book your free 30-minute consultation, and I'll get back to you immediately with respects to that. If you're interested in owning your own HRT TRT spa franchise, it's something that you could also reach out to me, since spots are definitely limited as the way in which as we're expanding very, very quickly. But most importantly, man, it's like I have a text message service and I have an email, man. It's like I'm all for like giving as much advice and as much coaching and inspiration as I possibly can. Because one, I never had that when it's like I never had that, when I needed it. So I know how important it is, especially, it's like in as competitive these markets and ruthless as these markets are. It's always good to know that you can have somebody only a text message or an email away, man.
100%. Now, Richard, I do have one final question for you, sir. What is the process of starting a legal HRT TRT clinic like? Is that a hard process?
If you have a company that already has a turnkey solution set up like Circadian, not much. And what I mean by that is like we have like three different tiers. We have $100,000, a $60,000 tier, and a $40,000 tier. And with that, you get all our medical directors, you get all our access to all our pharmacy. It's basically you acquiring our intellectual property. If you were going to start it from scratch, yes, it's it's a very expensive endeavor. Just to give you an example, when I was launching Hormone Club with WFN making $50,000 to $60,000 a day, I probably put about $4 million into the Hormone Club for it to finally be completely above board. Yeah. Whereas like Circadian has been in existence for about 9 years, already has that infrastructure in place. So when I came on board, in mid-June, it was really just teaching them the franchise model, teaching them the licensure model, getting them licensed globally in the other markets that he wasn't licensed in, to ensure that all the I's, are dotted and all the T's are crossed. And then from there, just talking and interacting with a couple of individuals that I knew that were already interested in launching their own HRT companies. And when they looked at the business model and they looked at what we're doing just in Charlotte alone and what differentiates us from every other HRT company, that's why it's like literally like a no-brainer. I mean, I have yet to have one person that I presented the business model to, and they were like, "I'm not interested." And like it's either like the only reasons why they haven't given me a check as of today is because they're gathering the funds to actually launch the clinic. But none of them, not one, have said it's like, "Hey, you know what? I don't want to move forward because I don't think this business model is viable."
And this is 100% legal, right, Richard? I'm just playing obviously.
At the end of the day, it's just like I told all of them. It's like, hey, you know what? I've learned within 2 months of being incarcerated that this wasn't the place for me. Yeah. I didn't need to do 5 years. And I lost 5 years of my son's life. And I'm not going to lose more. And most importantly, some of the athletes and celebrities that are franchisee owners now have done their due diligence with some of the top attorneys. We have all our licenses that would be more than willing to divulge. That's one of the main reasons why I aligned myself with Dr. Pleasy versus all the other HRT, TRT clinics, because I'm the type of person that has a tendency to go 100 miles an hour. Like I see an opening, I'm moving forward, and it's like and address issues as they evolve. No. Whereas like him, he already handled that. The legalities and the logistics, the compliance piece and all that stuff, he's done that. Granted, he had an unfair advantage of working with me a year prior to me being released to make sure that that's already structured. Because just to kind of give you an idea, I was while I was incarcerated as a way to make money, I was also having 2 or 3 people that I would mentor. So I was helping him. So I was helping him get that infrastructure in place because I knew that as soon as I got out, I was either going to align myself with him or I was either going to launch my own HRT TRT clinic because I know that it was possible for it to be completely 100% above board. It was just a matter of one, the investment and the time it would take to actually launch it.
Hey, well done, Richard. It has been an honor and privilege talking with you, sir. You know,
Thank you
guys,
so much.
don't forget to check out Richard's content, Richard's training. Everything will be in the bio. Go check Richard out. Now, guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this YouTube video. Until next time, guys, Underdog out.